Hello everyone, welcome back to Trek Today, and today we have another Star Trek Voyager book. We have The Nanotech War. Throughout human history, mankind has turned its goals and dreams toward exploration. With wagon trains, ships, satellites, and starships, humanity has chosen to seek out the new frontier, to explore new worlds, and to go where no human has gone before, even to the furthest reaches of the Delta Quadrant. There, Captain Janeway and the crew of the starship Voyager have discovered many strange and wondrous civilizations, but few as alien as the Chiar, an advanced and scientific people who have made great strides with nanotechnology. The Chiar expanded internally rather than externally. Every inch of their planet is crawling with the tiniest bits and pieces of artificial intelligence imaginable, working in concert as the new lifeblood of this mechanical world. The people themselves are inseparable from their nanites, which layer their skin and provide extra limbs or senses as required. Caught up in a bitter civil conflict, some Chiar will try to take advantage of their meeting with the crew of the starship Voyager. They imagine that their homegrown nanites can harness the incredible power of the deadly Borg, and instead set in motion an experiment that goes devastatingly out of control. This is a fantastic read that takes place during the later seasons of Star Trek Voyager that does a couple things really well. First off, on the larger scale, the issue of this society that they encounter when they stumble upon a scientist from this planet in the midst of his first successful test of a warp drive. They have a bit of a first contact situation. They're put almost into the shoes of the Vulcans when they encountered Zefram Cochrane's first successful trip with the Phoenix and first contact with Earth, first official contact at least. And they do a good job of showing the diplomatic side of this first contact, as well as examining this society in a way that makes them kind of an interesting species of the week, and at the same time gives a bit of an examination of where we might be going as a society with this over-reliance on technology, particularly now the issues of AI, and really just kind of allowing technology to do things for us until we eventually get to the point where we forget how to do anything for ourselves. And when this society is faced with the possibility of their nanite technology, which is so pervasive on every part of their lives, if that could possibly go away, what would happen? Would everything just collapse? They can't really do anything on their own, so it works in a couple different levels, and I think all of it flows pretty nicely, and even getting into the details of the civil unrest and the aftermath of a war, and Voyager trying to get not too heavily involved, but being sort of forced in and becoming a pivotal influence on the entire future of this world when they try and usurp the technologies that are offered by Voyager, the help that they are offering in exchange, and trying to exceed that and steal things that Voyager is trying to keep under wraps, as well as kidnapping crew members, particularly 7 of 9, becoming interested and thinking that they could harness and control her Borg nanoprobes and integrate it into their nanite technology, which obviously goes awry. A lot of interesting things there. But the other thing that does really well, besides being an interesting story on that scale, is when it gets down into the relationships between our characters. And I think that's where it really shines and brings what would already be just kind of a fun Voyager story into something a little bit greater. And I think one of the better Voyager stories that I've read in a while. It has a lot of focus on Tom and B'Elanna, and I think here really gets the voices of those characters right. You really, I think, adds a truthful element to the telling of their life as a married couple. It really gets their romance down right, and I think not every book does that at that stage of their lives. I think there are far many more that focus more on before they're truly together, the sort of the dating phase, or will they, won't they, and then of course the much later Voyager books after they have returned home to the Alpha Quadrant. And this is sort of I think a little time period during the last couple seasons of Voyager that their relationship in particular doesn't always kind of get the limelight, and I think here it does, and it does a fantastic job of showcasing that relationship. And I, of course, love that, as I really enjoy that relationship on Voyager. I like Tom Paris. I'm admittedly a bit of a B'Elanna fanboy, so I really like that aspect, and the fact that it was done well was exciting to see. And another surprising thing, they got into the Seven and Chakotay romance. And here, that sort of budding romance is handled with greater care than in the show, to the point where it's not believable at all during the run of Voyager, and partially because they kind of forget about it and then it comes back, and even the actors have said from week to week they weren't certain how they should play it. Should they play it that they are romantically involved or not, because it just was not written well. But if it had been written with half the believability as in the Nanotech War, it actually might have been a believable relationship, because that was handled fairly interestingly. It wasn't as much of a focus, and it was just sort of like we're first exploring the possibilities of romantic feelings rather than really being a couple. But the stage of that relationship that was portrayed here was written far better than it ever was on the show. So overall, it's a pretty good read. It does well everything that good science fiction does well. It tells an interesting alien world, futuristic story that also is saying something about the world we are currently living in, and has interesting characters with believable relationships. So definitely one that I would suggest as a little standalone Voyager adventure.